Good morning, Tamina Khan is here. In today's video, I will explain hypothesis. It is a topic of S2 A-level mathematics, CAIE, and the procedure will be same. First, I will discuss the requirement of the syllabus, and then I will explain the concept with the help of past paper questions. Before I begin, you can see here the blog address TKMaths.blogspot.com. I have put up the links of all my previously made videos up here. So if you want to see the videos, you can go to that blog and see accordingly. Now in hypothesis test, there is a requirement of certain things which you should know before starting this topic. So I'm going to tell you which concepts or which things you must know. If you don't know these, then I would recommend that you see my videos on sampling and estimation, where I have explained all these in detail, because it is sort of continuation. Hypothesis chapter use more or less all concepts which are taught in sampling and estimation. So the prerequisite knowledge is that you should know how to read the Z table. You should know what is confidence interval for population mean and population proportion. In the questions, though, I will tell you the formula and I will show you the substitution, but I will not go into much detail because we have already discussed all this in the previous chapter. And what is the meaning of unbiased estimation of population mean and population variance? So you need to know all these things very well, right? Okay. And one more thing, the reference I have taken from book is Croshaw and Chamber, A-level advanced statistics book. So if you want to read that book, you can. It has a good explanation. And questions I have taken from past paper, or maybe few from that book also. Now two terms which I have already explained, and I'm just repeating because I will use them very often. It's population, sample, perimeter, and statistics. So when we say population, so whatever the group we are talking about, it means each and every member of it. When I say sample, it means a portion of the population. When I say perimeter, it means characteristics of the population. So for example, I'm talking about perimeter mu. It means I'm talking about mean of population. But if I say statistics, it means the data I have collected from the sample. Right? So statistics mean the value you have gotten from the sample which you have collected from population, and perimeter mean actually from the population itself. Okay, so now in the syllabus, if you see, the requirement of the syllabus is that you should understand the nature of hypothesis test. Achha, by the way, when I will read these terms, you may not understand fully, but it's fine because as we will study gradually, you will get all these. You should understand the difference between one-tailed, two-tailed test. And the language of hypothesis is extremely important, which has null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, significance level, critical region, acceptance region, test statistics. How do you formulate hypothesis? How do you carry out the test? And when you are doing all this, you will be given one of the three population: binomial, Poisson, and normal. And we have done already the formula and everything of it. So, but we will use it here again. And then you must know what is type 1 and type 2 error. And second thing is, like, which is written in this paragraph. I'm not reading it, but it means if you know the population is normal or not, if you know its variance, or if you don't know, then what we will do in all these cases, we have learned all these in sampling and estimation also, where we learn central limit theorem and so on. So this is the syllabus of the hypothesis. So let's begin. In this video, by the way, I will explain first of all the meaning of all these terms, because when these terms will be used in the question, you should be able to understand what is being asked. So the first 10-15 minutes of the video may be just on the explanation of the terms, which is called language of hypothesis, which is extremely important. So let's start. Okay, here I would like to tell you one thing, that to explain these terms, I have taken different way of expressing these ideas from different sites on the internet, because at times it happens when we read about something in one way we don't get it, but the other way makes sense. So I have tried to pick it up 2-3 examples. I will keep explaining, but at the same time I am showing in the written form. So first of all, if we are doing hypothesis testing, we need to know what is hypothesis basically, right? So it's just like a normal literal meaning. Hypothesis is an idea, theory or argument that is put forward for study, either from personal experience or from collecting data. So hypothesis is just an idea which is tested basically later on, or the basis on which you are putting up this idea may be your personal experience, maybe you have collected some data or done some research, right? So this is the meaning of hypothesis basically. This was just another example, another way of writing it. The word hypothesis, plural hypotheses, means a theory which is put forward either for the sake of argument or because it is believed or suspected to be true, right? So we understood what is hypothesis. Now let's see what is hypothesis test, because in this whole chapter we will keep doing hypothesis test all the time. So I can say hypothesis test is a process which uses sample statistics to test a claim about the value of population parameter. So in a while I'll just show you an example. So you are basically testing here that the population parameter which is given is correct or not. So let me give you example here only. For example, I'm talking about that the children in the school A, score in the final exam 80% marks. But somebody say no, this is not true, the performance has gone down. So then now the claim is that no, it is not true, it has gone down, it is not 80%. So I will test on this population parameter which is saying okay, performance is 80%, right? So then we will do test. How do we do test? I will show you later. So a test of hypothesis is a method for using sample data to decide whether the null hypothesis is rejected. Now what is null hypothesis? Whatever is the population parameter. I will just show you in a while what is null hypothesis and how it is written, right? So we understood that hypothesis testing is basically testing the population parameter, either it should be rejected or not, based on the sample we collect and based on the values of the sample. Okay, so null hypothesis is represented by H0 and alternative hypothesis is represented by H1. And sometimes it is written as H and small a here in some books. So both ways it is fine. So let's see what are these two hypotheses, null and alternative. So null hypothesis is the hypothesis which is to be actually tested. Like I just gave you example of a student's performance of 80%, right, in the final exam. So this is the hypothesis which is actually tested, whereas alternative hypothesis gives an alternative to the null hypothesis. Like I said, it was said no, it is not 80, it is less than that, right? So in other words, we can say that null hypothesis states that a population parameter, now what we are talking about, for example, mean, that population mean is equals to the hypothesized value, right? Like I gave you example of 80% result. So null hypothesis is often an initial claim that is based on previous analysis or specialized knowledge. And that's why it is said at times, you will read, if you will read the Google and you will read null hypothesis, it is said there is no difference between the hypothesized value and the population parameter, because you use the word equal to, that H0 is equals to this. Whereas alternative hypothesis states that the population parameter either is smaller than that value, greater than, or maybe different, you don't know. So how do we write the notations, the symbol, right? For example, if h naught, and we are talking about mean, so h naught is equals to 30, mu is equals to 30, and alternative hypothesis says no, it is less than 30. For example, let me make a relation here. Okay, for example, I'm talking about that in the seed pack, in the pack there are seeds and 30 germinates, and I'm saying okay, this is the null hypothesis, whereas somebody says no, it is less than 30 seeds which are germinated. So then this is my alternative hypothesis, right? So I'm saying less than. If I say no, more than, so I will say greater than 30. Or if I say no, there is change, it's not exactly 30. So when you are not sure and you just say neither you mention more, neither you mention less, so you put not equals to, you mean it will change, but you don't know what will be changed, more or less. So this is the way null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis are mentioned, right? Let me show you the same thing in terms of graph also, rough sketch. Just a second. Okay, so I have changed my mind. Let me explain 2-3 terms more, and then I will show you sketch of null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, because I need to put few more things in the sketch, so I want to explain you that. So let's come to the term two-sided or two-tailed test. For example, if you see the example here, basically two-tailed mean when your alternative is not equals to, then it is called two-tailed test, and when alternative hypothesis is less than or greater than, then it is called one-tailed test. So let's see here in the example. Now if you see, he is talking about the results. The researcher has result for a sample of students who took a national exam at a high school. So question is saying the researcher wants to know that the score at the school differ from the national average. Now when it is saying differ from, he is not talking about that the result will be more than the national average or will be less. So in that case we will say that alternative hypothesis is not equals to, because the average is 850, right? So my null hypothesis is mu is equals to 850. But alternative hypothesis, he wants to see that school has a different result from the national average of 850. So it is putting not equals to. So it is called two-tailed test. Whereas if the same question says that before the exams the students were giving training, so their score will be better, they will do better average in national exam. So now my null hypothesis is 850, mu equals to 850, whereas my alternative hypothesis will be mu greater than 850. So it depends how the question is framed, because we have to tell it is a one tail or two tail. If it is greater than, then it is called one tail upper tail. If the sign is less than, then it is called one tail lower tail. When we will see questions, you will understand better, but at least right now you will get an idea of what we are talking about. Now the thing is, when you are doing a test, you may make a mistake, right? So the errors in the hypothesis testing have two names. It is called type 1 error and it is called type 2 error. So when you are doing hypothesis testing, as I have just explained you earlier, that you have to check the claim of alternative hypothesis, right? And on the basis of that, you reject H naught or you accept H naught basically. So basically the test is happening to check either you have to accept null hypothesis or you have to reject it. So type 1 error says that you are rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. So if by mistake with your test you say okay, I'm rejecting H naught, and you are making a mistake because it is actually true, then it means you have made type 1 error. And when you accept H naught, whereas it is actually wrong, then it means you have made type 2 error. So a type 2 error occurs when the sample leads you to wrongly accept null hypothesis. So sample values were such that you accept H0 whereas it is false. So you got type 1, type 2 error, you got one tail or two tail, null hypothesis. So let's see what is next thing is significance level. Okay, so when you make type 1 error, which means when you reject null hypothesis when actually it is true, it means you are making a type 1 error. It is called the level of significance you set for your hypothesis. So the probability of making a type 1 error, which is the level of significance. So basically the significance level is your type 1 error, and it is usually expressed by alpha. So if your probability of type 1 error is 5%, it means you are willing to accept a 5% chance that you are wrong when you reject the null hypothesis. So in other language I can say significance level is the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis, representing the degree of risk that the researcher is willing to take for type 1 error. So in simple language, the significance level in type 1 error is same. Now, this at times confuses the students. We will do question, then you will understand better what I mean. But basically type 1 error mean significance level also, right? Now we will see with the help of rough sketch, and then we will go to the questions where we will get a better understanding. Okay, so we have just seen that type 1 error occur when the researcher rejects the null hypothesis when actually it is true, and the probability of committing a type 1 error is called the significance level. Now for example, your alternative hypothesis is 12, null hypothesis is 12, and alternative hypothesis is not equals to 12. When it is a symbol of not equals to, it means it is two tail, right? How do we get this? I'll just come back to it. When it is here I would like you to recall confidence interval, which we did in sampling and estimation. When it is 95% confidence interval, then what comes on each end? Yes, 100 minus 95 is 5, so 2.5 and 2.5, remember? So we will see the concept of that also later on in the questions. So if question says it is two-tailed test, then it means we have to take on each side. So if question is saying 10% significance level and null alternate hypothesis is not equals to, it means 5% will go here, 5% will go here. If question says alternative hypothesis increasing and it is upper tail test, then only on this side you shade 10%. How we will use it in the calculation, we will see in the questions. If question says alternative hypothesis is less than whatever the value, it means it is a lower tail test, one side, right? So now let's see the steps involved in the hypothesis testing, and then we will start questions to understand better. So when you are doing hypothesis testing, you have to mention 7 steps. Number 1 is the variable, whatever you're talking about there. You have to state alternative and null hypothesis, null and alternative. You have to describe the distribution according to H0, which is null hypothesis. You have to state the significance level and type of the test. Type mean one tail, two tail, that thing. You have to state the rejection criteria. You have to perform the test, and then you have to conclude. It may seem like alien to you that so much is talked about and nothing is clear. So once we will start question, you will start understanding. But in all my questions, I will describe all 7 steps again and again to perform the test. Now here I would like to tell you that we have to do hypothesis testing in 3 types of distribution: binomial, Poisson and normal. Now what I have done here, I have designed initially all the questions of binomial I have picked up from the past paper, and as many ways I can use to explain the question, I have done that. So different type of questions, but all around binomial, and then I will go to normal and Poisson. So let's pick up one question. Okay, so this is the question, year and everything I've mentioned here. It is a binomial case for hypothesis testing, and it can be solved by different ways, but I have solved by binomial method. Now the question says that before attending a basketball course, the player found that 60% of his shots made a score. And once he attended the course, what is the claim then? That he has improved. Improved mean it is greater than 60%. So altogether 12 shots were taken as a sample, out of which 10s were scored. And you have to test at 10% significance level. Does it say that we should accept the claim that it has improved after the course or not? So let's see. And like I said, I will explain all 7 steps. So first step is to mention the variable. So I'm telling you here that let x is the number of shots made a score, where x is the binomial distribution 12, p. Now the null hypothesis, it is mentioned like this, such that p is equals to 0.6, and alternative hypothesis p is greater than 0.6. Now third step was that you have to say if h0 is true, then your distribution is this, because you will perform your test on this distribution considering that h0 is true. And the test value is 10, because out of 12, 10 made a score. Now because it is greater than symbol, it means I am doing one tail test, and greater mean upper value. So if I draw the diagram, I can mention it like this, 10% on this side. So using a one tail upper tail test at the 10% significance level, I will say that if my value will fall in this category, then I will reject h0. So I'm writing here probability of x greater than equals to 10. Now this symbol is coming because of this. Why I'm writing equals to? Because out of 12 shots, 10 were successful and 10 is included. So that's why you write 10. So if the probability of this is less than 10%, then you will reject h0. Now why this symbol less than 10%? Because this area is called critical region, right? And this value is called critical value, which will come here. Right now we are testing at 10. So if my 10, the probability of 10 is less than 10%, it means 10 is somewhere here, and my probability is less than mean it is here. So let's check. So probability of x greater than equals to 10, it means I will find out the probability for x equals to 10, 11 and 12. Simple binomial method I'm applying. My percentage is coming 8.34%, and 8.34% is less than, sorry, I have written the greater symbol which is wrong. It is less than 10%. Just 1 minute. Okay, so I have made a correction. So because 8.34% is less than 10%, hence reject h0. And Cambridge expect that you must write comment in context. So in this context, it means that the player claim is accepted and he has improved. Now if I just try to explain you this, because the student find this portion difficult to grasp, okay, why are we rejecting? In the diagram we said that this is a critical region, 10% significance level. If I make this area shorter and shorter, you see if I draw the line here, if I draw the line here, then this side area will be less than 10%, because from this line onward it is 10%. So when I calculated my probability for probability of x greater than equals to 10, because 10 was my test value, so probability is coming 8.3. It means it is somewhere here. This area is 8.3%. So I'm falling in this region. So that's why I'm in the critical region, and when you fall in the critical region, you reject H0. So with this, I'll finish this video, and in the next video, I will just pick up questions, and I will not go into the detail of terms again. And I hope it will make more sense to you then. If you understood a little bit from this video, please press the like button and subscribe and bell. And let's watch the next video. Thank you very much for watching this. Bye bye. Have a good day. Allah Hafiz.